Hi there, welcome along. This is Outdoor Gear Chat. We're on season 2, but this is episode 9 of overall. So today this is Rock Shoes, Trust the Rubber. As always, I'm Wayne. I'm joined by Cathy. Hello, all right?
Hi Wayne. Yeah, I'm Cathy Casey, one of the directors and co-owners of the Climber Shop and the Joe Brown shops in the Lake District and also in Snowdonia.
Awesome. And I'm Wayne, your host for this journey through rubber. I think is if we,
well,
if
at
we
least
said...
you're not wearing rubber this time. We have had a podcast,
yeah.
Mittens versus Fingers. I remember that well.
Was it? You remember it too well then in that case.
Well, it stuck with me, Wayne. It's a vision that I'm never going to be able to unsee, frankly.
I know. Yeah, it was a wetsuit, just in case for those who are listening that might be over disturbed by that. So yeah, of course, for celebration, you were just saying just before we came on air that we just had our 1,000th download of Outdoor.
I know.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So thank you to you lovely people that are listening, and keep on listening and subscribing and liking it on your favourite podcasting site. So anyway, Rock Shoes. I think in the was it the last one or the time before last where we were talking about climbing stuff. My climbing knowledge is rubbish. So you're going to have to educate me and bear with me as I ask all the dumb questions today. So Rock Shoes, what are they all about?
Well, Rock Shoes are a very, very close-fitting sort of foot-hugging shoe with a sticky rubber bottom and a rand around the side. And they... Stop giggling because I said the word bottom.
Sticky rubber bottom, yeah. Sorry, go on, yeah.
But basically they're designed to stick to the rock and help aid your climbing. They are very, very, very specialist, and there are a huge number. In fact, before we came on air, I went online and just counted how many we stock, because our rock shoe wall just keeps expanding. We've actually got over 70 different styles. Wow. In store, and we do try and stock as close to 50-50 we can, men's and women's. We've got kids as well, but over 70 different styles. So it is quite literally a minefield to make sure you get the right ones. And it's quite easy to look at what all of the best climbers are wearing and thinking, right, those are the ones for me. But that's not always the case. There is a lot of things to think of, and we can cover all those now.
Awesome. So yeah, why is it just the stickiness then? Why can I not just go climbing in a pair of trainers?
Well, you definitely can. There's nothing to stop you going climbing in a pair of trainers, and when you're starting out, it's probably the best thing to do so your feet are comfy. Years ago, because climbing shoes are a fairly new phenomena, they kind of really came into the fore in the 80s. They kind of appeared in the sort of probably 50s. I think I'm having to wind my memory back. I wasn't there.
You're not that old,
the arrival of the rock shoe. I just hasten to add. But like the likes of Joe Brown and his fellow climbers of the time, just post-war, all the routes they did, and there were some pretty gnarly routes, were in walking boots or mountaineering boots.
Or hobnailed boots
exactly. Nails were put in. There's a very nice tale of Joe Brown climbing a route in the Lake District, and all he could hear was the tinkling of the nails falling out of the boots as the people above him were trying to yeah. But so no, you don't actually need rock boots to climb outside. You could use trainers. The reason why you might want to shift into using specialist rock shoes is because as you climb on smaller holds, it's very difficult to keep a trainer pushed against the rock and on that hold. It will just roll off. And rock shoes are designed specifically to hold your foot into a given shape and for that precision placement of your foot, so that when you put your foot on a hold, it will stay there.
So just in the same way he says waving his hands in the air, you can get your fingers on a hold, you can get a toe on a hold as well in a rock shoe, but you can't do that particularly in a climbing boot or
it's a lot harder and in a pair of trainers. But the key thing for climbing basically is good footwork. And that's why people look at climbing shoes, to get that precision, to make sure they can use their feet as carefully and precisely as possible, because your legs are infinitely stronger than your arms. Climbing is all about good footwork and balance, and your arms are there lesser down the priority list, if you like. They are obviously clearly very important, but once you've got your footwork sorted, then you can enjoy climbing at a different realm.
Yeah. Okay. So what? Yeah, and they look like they're very, very small, slim pieces of footwear, aren't they? Rock shoes for the uninitiated, including myself. I guess I have seen them because I've got loads of mates who climb. And yeah, so yeah, is the makeup, like you said, is it rubber on the bottom and then fabric upper and stuff like that? Is that how they're designed?
You've got absolutely rubber on the base, and you've got either a choice of leather or synthetic on the upper, and there is a reason to choose one over the other. You'll find that there's so many different shapes and sizes of them. If you just look at the wall, they're all different shapes, and the reason for that is because there's different grades, there's different styles of climbing, and there's different rock types that demand different different ways that you use them, and you'll find that somebody who's climbing on gritstone slabs, for example, needs a shoe that's a different shape and offers a different type of support to someone who's climbing pocketed overhanging limestone.
Right. And why is that then? Just on that note, so that I think you've used that terminology in the previous climbing one, and I think I know what you're on about like gritstone slab and limestone and stuff. But why? What's the difference on those?
So if you're going up a slab, if you imagine your foot is going up a slab, it's going to be very bent. That your toes are going to be quite, or the ball of your foot rather, is going to be bending, and you're going to be padding up that slab, if you like. So you need a shoe that's very bendy in that dimension. If you're climbing on overhanging limestone that's pocketed, and you're having to put your toes in very precise little holes, or even at edges, then you're going to want, if you're pocketed, then you're going to want a very pointed shoe that's going to go poke into small places and stay there. If you want something for edging, like on slate, for example, then you need a shoe that is extremely stiff across the width of the base of the shoe. So it's all different qualities, and they're all built with that in mind. So the best thing to do when you're looking for shoes is to just have a chat, come in and have a chat with the staff. The ones that are climbers will sit and talk for hours. Quite literally. A different route. They could probably even talk about the routes and what you need for different routes, different areas, certainly different rock types. But
I guess then the first question is going to be where do you do most of your climbing? Is it in the lakes, or is it in Snowdonia, or is it in the Peak District, or whatever, isn't it? And then that's going to direct you. Yeah.
And even more fundamental than that, do you climb mostly indoors? Do you climb mostly outdoors? Because there's different requirements for a shoe there as well. And are you a beginner?
I am.
Or are you experienced as well? Because I think we touched on this in walking boots. In your foot, you've got 33 joints, you've got 26 bones, you've got over 100 muscles, tendons and ligaments. If you're just starting out, you're going to need to support all of those so that you can concentrate on getting your footwork precise, so that you can improve your climbing. If you've got a very, very soft climbing shoe that's been designed for top end climbers who have very, very strong feet, they're not going to give you the support that you need. You're going to need something that's a bit stiffer. And that can help support you, so your feet are comfortable and you can concentrate on your climbing and enjoy your climbing, which is really the most important thing. It's a wonderful sport, so that's definitely something to really take into account.
And I guess there's that parallel then, isn't there? Well, no, I'm not saying, I shouldn't say isn't there, but the parallel for me there is when I've done loads of road running, and you've got a super supportive, like high cushioning shoe, moving onto trails, and the initial trail running shoes that I started using were really thin. So then suddenly you end up with bruised feet from, you sort of you're moving laterally up and down, left and right, all over the place. Your foot's swirling around, and they're bruised from hitting rocks. And I guess a climbing shoe in some respects is going to be similar to that. If you're used to wearing a particular shoe day to day normally, and then you're moving on to rock, then your feet are going to hurt a little bit, I suppose.
They're going to get sore, and the more they're supported, the less tired you're going to feel. So and actually it also means you're less likely to get injured as well. In days of old, you'd walk in for a fair way to the crag carrying a big pack, probably you're wearing trainers, your feet would have the opportunities you walked in to strengthen. These days, if you're getting out of your car or you're coming off of a train and you're getting into a climbing wall without warming your feet up at all, maybe you haven't even walked that much all day because you've been in a desk job, your feet are going to wonder what on earth is going on when suddenly you're demanding that you balance all of your body weight on your big toes. So it's support is really key, and that can be gleaned by one of two ways really. It's the lasting. So it's how the shoe is made is really important to how much support it gives you. And you can get board lasted or you can get slip lasted. That's the two main descriptions or methods of making rock shoes. And lasting is the term for the metal implement that the boot is made around. The boots that we stock from La Sportiva, from Scarpa, from Boreal, most of those are handmade in Europe. And the amount of time that they're kept on that last is how it dictates the shape of the boot and how it retains its shape as well. So a board lasted shoe is generally stiffer. It does mean it's less sensitive, but it is more comfortable. It's often, if you look at the shape of a shoe on a wall, it's probably the flattest and most similar to your foot shape, your natural resting foot shape. And that makes it great for all day wear. So not just if you're a beginner, but if you're multi-pitch climbing, if you're out all day on a 4-8, if you're on an alpine route, actually doing pitches over a number of days, you're going to want a comfortable shoe to be in. A slip-lasted shoe is less stiff. It offers a little support, does require a tight fit. So these are the ones often that you'll see on the wall that look a bit of a strange shape. They look immediately like they're not going to be comfy, and that's because they're probably not going to be very comfy. But those are ideal for bouldering or sport climbing where you've got a lot of foot strength. But because they're so tight fitting, they're not that comfortable to leave on for long periods of time. And actually, that's a really, really important point, because if you are starting out climbing, please, please, please do not buy the smallest pair of rock shoes that you can physically fit your feet into. It's not necessary. Once you are experienced, you've got your good footwork, you've got your footwork nailed, then you're going to be starting to think about needing that precision foot placement and a softer shoe. That's when to go for the tear-inducingly tight footwear if you feel the need. But while you're starting out, there's no need at all.
Yeah, and why would you go for that, something that tight then? I can't get my head around that mentality, if you will. It's, being used to wanting to be on my feet for a long time, and my feet, being able to feel the ground, for want of a better phrase. Why would you go for that restriction on your foot, to be honest?
Well, the tighter shoes are designed to be aggressive, so you'll see them on the shelf, and they will almost look like there's a huge pronounced arch in the foot. They don't look like the natural resting state of your foot. They will have a construction that forces your pressure against the heel, and that will force your toes into the front of the boot. So that makes them uncomfortable. And it also forces your toes almost one on top of the other, so that your weight is much more pronounced onto your big toe. So the shoe immediately forces your foot into an unnatural position, but it's a position that will put the optimum amount of weight onto your big toe.
Right, so you're going to get grip on the surface then, basically, isn't it? Everything's
directed. So if you're on a tiny weensy teensy hole, that's what you need so your foot won't just roll off you need to have your all of your weight, or as much weight as is possible onto that big toe. So they are sort of called aggressive or downturned shoes, those ones. They've got lots of heel tension, and they're strong and powerful, and designed for sort of overhangs, and very, very soft, so you can feel literally as much of the rock as possible through the shoe.
But not at the beginner's end of the market, that's for sure. Like you're saying, it's
no, you kind of, the trade-off is you have a thicker rubber at the beginner's end, because your footwork isn't as good. Maybe you're scraping and scrabbling around with your feet a bit. It's possible to go through a pair of performance rock boots scrabbling your feet around very, very quickly, and they're not cheap.
Okay. Yeah.
So a boot with a thicker rubber, you do lose that sensitivity, but it'll allow, and it'll just be that much more durable for while you're starting out and learning how to place your feet efficiently.
Okay. And then, just back to something which you'd mentioned briefly, and I think I led you off topic, but you're saying about leather and synthetic uppers with the rubber, the rubber base on them. What was and you said that there might be some. It was about rock type, I think, that you started talking about, and I led you astray on that. Sorry, but so what might you want the leather versus synthetic for? What?
Yeah, the leather uppers can either be lined or unlined, and that makes a difference to how they're going to fit you over time. A lined leather rock boot, will stretch less. So that might increase in size, maybe half a size. It depends on the style. And this is, again, when you come in and you talk to our staff, they'll be able to, probably from experience, explain how the boot is going to shape over time. If it's unlined, it will stretch considerably more. So that could stretch up to a whole shoe size bigger over time, which may or may not be what you want. Or it's certainly something to watch out for when you're sizing them in the shop as well, and when you buy them. The other thing with leather is they can be, there's argument over this, they can be less stinky over time. Rock boots by design can be pretty foul. We do sell boot bananas that do a good job of keeping them less stinky. Alternatively, you can use dried out tea bags in your rock boots, and they will soak up the smell as well. But unlined leather can also bleed colour onto your feet as well, which isn't like a massive problem. But if you've been wearing red shoes all day and they've bled all over your feet, and you're sitting in a bar having a post climb,
wearing your sandals or Crocs,
you can get some really strange looks. It can take a while to come out as well. But when it comes to synthetic uppers, and again, people who are vegetarian or vegan or do not want to use animal products, this is a really good option for them. Synthetic shoes do offer a minimal stretch. They really won't stretch much at all. So what you're feeling when you try them on in the shop is pretty much what you're going to be feeling in a year's time when you're climbing in them. But they do soften with use as well. And some also come with wicking liners. So they will transport moisture away from your feet. Now, you do have 125,000 sweat glands in each foot. So if you're climbing in an indoor environment...
I love the geekery. They sort of facts are what everyone's listening for. Brilliant. Yeah, sorry, if you're climbing in an indoor environment and you're going to get sweaty feet.
Yeah, or if you're climbing somewhere really hot, you're going to get sweaty feet. So you do need to sort of dry your boots out. There's nothing you can do about it. They're going to get wet. So you do need to dry your boots out afterwards in the air, not in the sun.
And I guess something there, though, that you've just mentioned, which hadn't sunk in for me, is you're not wearing socks. You are.
Yeah. Now, personally, I don't go near a pair of rock boots these days without a nice comfy pair of socks in. But that's because I'm a bumbly climber now. Socks will certainly help your boots stink less, that's for sure. They can also offer warmth. If you're climbing on multi-pitch routes and you're climbing this time of year, for example, it can get pretty cold. Or if you're climbing in an alpine environment, you might want to wear them with socks for warmth. which is really important. Also, if you have bought your boots with socks and then you're climbing in a very, very hot environment, and if like me, you suffer from feet that expand quite a lot in a hot environment, it just gives an extra bit of space. If you climb at altitude, your feet might expand as well. So you need to allow for that when you're buying rock boots for an alpine environment, or if you're climbing high up. So just buying a pair, sizing them with socks in the shop can actually, and then not wearing them with socks when you're climbing, can just allow for that extra space. If you're climbing in an alpine environment that's colder, and you're using rock shoes, then you do need to pay extra careful attention to how they fit, because you don't want that rock boot restricting your blood flow at all in your footwear. So you might want to wear them with socks, you might want to take them off. You've got space and you've got that choice there.
And there's increasing risk of frostbite then, is that right? As well as if your
blood circulation is impeded, then that will increase substantially issues with frostbite. That's somewhere you don't want to go.
From your face, and when I mentioned socks, I thought it was a fashion faux pas to be wearing socks with climbing shoes. I thought,
there's probably boulderers and sport climbers that have just listened to. Well, they probably just turned off actually.
Brilliant.
But they'd be quite right too. Because when you're climbing at that level, at such a high level, if you're using precision footwear, and that's the level that you're climbing at, then the last thing you want to do is put in an additional barrier to the sensitivity. So absolutely, if you're bouldering, if you're on high grade climbing and or doing high grades indoors, then probably the last thing you want to do is wear a sock with your rock shoes.
Yeah. And then, so just back to the leather synthetic thing, and you mentioned there about the vegan or avoiding animal products as well. And I know we're trying to put this into almost every conversation that we have at the moment, but that sustainability message, is everything got a rubber bottom?
Yeah, all of the shoes have a rubber base, but some of them use a recycled rubber. And methods on using that recycled rubber are improving a lot, certainly in the last few years. Again, the three brands that we stock, we actually have in stock a Scarpa Maestro Mid Eco, which is uses an eco leather on their shoe. The rubber itself, I think there's.
What does that mean? Sorry, Cathy. Just what does that term mean? What is eco leather? Is it? Do you know what that means?
Yeah, so it means it's a leather that's been created using fewer chemicals, fewer raw materials, there's less water use involved, and as a result, there's less CO2 emissions.
Okay.
Probably more expensive to make. That's
indeed,
always the trade-off. But there are still questions over recycled rubber and its ability to work to a level that a climber would expect. So Boreal actually make a Beta Eco shoe, which is almost 100% recycled, but still the toe and the heel cup, so in the climbing zones, they still use a raw rubber because they haven't yet bought a rubber out that will work to the level that they expect. La Sportiva also have a shoe in their range, the Mythos, which is 95% recycled, even down to the little lacing rods, the little gizmos on the end of the laces that you use to poke through the stiff bits. And that uses water-based adhesives. They do use an eco rubber, so they're the rubber that they use is recycled. That one's not actually currently available in the UK, but we are looking hopefully to be able to stock that in the future. All of the brands actually, again, that we deal with, Scarpa have a green manifesto, La Sportiva focus massively on their own energy consumption as a company in their entirety, and Boreal have built new buildings that utilise more natural light, harvest rainwater. They've all got PV panels on their roofs. They really are doing a lot to improve the carbon footprint of their companies, and in the grand scheme of things as well, not just per product. We are starting to see these products come through, definitely, but as with all these things, it's big picture stuff as well that's really important to take into account.
Absolutely. And as you said earlier on in this conversation and in other shows as well, is they are European manufacturers. On the most part, the majority of it is produced in Europe, so that carbon footprint as far as transport for our supply chain is low, or as low as it can be, I'm guessing.
It is very definitely, they're sourcing sort of in the 80-90% mark, all of their components, even within Europe, and certainly in Italy. That's why you've got sort of valleys that are known for footwear. There's valley that's known for sunglasses. There's valley that's known for boots, and those traditional industries have grown up there, and those component industries are still close by. And I think now more than ever, it's really, really important that that's the case.
Yeah, that's it. They can almost see where the stuff's coming from. Right, so cutting to the chase, I'm a dad with 2 kids just starting climbing. How much is it going to cost me? Especially for my daughter, who's bonkers on it. But yeah, anyway, that's another thing. Yeah.
To kit yourself out in shoes.
Yeah. How much is my 9-year-old daughter's new shoes going to cost? Yeah.
Well, we stock shoes from junior size 10. And we also stock adult shoes from UK size 2 right through to UK size 14.5, and we stock half sizes in UK and European sizes as well. So you can get absolute right fit, which is going to be perfect for yourself because your feet are no longer growing.
Yeah.
A key thing to look at with children's rock boots is that there's adjustment in them. You can buy ones with size adjustment in them. What we did for our kids, but to start with, they just climbed in trainers for as long as possible, because the feet are scrabbling all over the place and they're just going to wear through them really quickly. So they started climbing in wellies because they just wouldn't take any other footwear, was just not an option. So they started climbing in Kendall climbing wall in their clean wellies, I might add.
Oh, no way. So they were climbing indoors but in wellies. Brilliant. I thought that it was one of those, being a dad, they might as well wear wellies because they're into all sorts, so they just get brilliant. Love that.
Yeah. So then, we actually just worked with other parents and just swap shoes as
doing
kids trades,
around
the houses, because they never wear them out. So that's, if you're part of a club, for example, it's just worth getting on their notice board and saying kids' shoes, swap them around. If you want to buy them, that's great, that's fabulous. If you've got kids that are totally into their climbing, then absolutely get them their shoes. They should have adjustment in. We made sure any that we got to start with, they wore with a big sock, and then the sock sort of got thinner, and then it went all together until they were too tight. Please make sure your kids are climbing in shoes with their toes flat. Their feet are so delicate, their muscles, their bones are still growing, and also make sure they don't keep them on for long periods of time.
What do you mean by shoe adjustment? Sorry, you were saying having adjustment in the shoe there as well when you mentioned socks. Is that to make the whole shoe tighter so that they last a bit longer?
Some will have a little adjustment around the heel so that you can just cinch it in around the back of the heel. And that will ensure that you can sort of slacken it off over time, and it just means that the shoes will last a bit longer.
I'm smirking because you're doing a little demonstration which the people at home can't quite see, but I know it's a brilliant visual clue, but sorry, it is, that was, sorry, I saw you pause briefly and look at me as if they were laughing at me. It was like, well, it was brilliant visually but didn't work.
No, we do have 3 different styles of children's rock shoe on our website, so if you go on the website and have a look at the descriptions and the images, all will become clear.
Brilliant. So for me, that's the kids have got water shoes, and I've done it exactly as you described. Basically, they bought a size too big for them almost, because they've got that little, they've got the little pull cord on the back of the shoe, basically, haven't they? So that they can, it'll hug the foot or the ankle a bit more. It won't fall off, but they can still grip and they can still walk. Yeah,
actually, water shoes are great. Our kids wore their water shoes climbing as well, outdoors. Because a few times they're just lovely and grippy because they're really soft, and a few times we've been climbing outdoors, they just use the water shoes.
Brilliant. And they can do gully bashing and then go climbing straight afterwards as well. And even as a retailer, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here, but look on eBay, there's always parents selling kids shoes. I think it's much more important to get
kids into climbing and enjoying their climbing,
Yeah,
and looking at ways of recycling and reusing kit as much as possible, and for kids in particular, because they just grow so fast, then places like eBay are ideal, really.
There's not a little offshoot for you there, is there? I know other some of your competitors do that trading thing, don't you? If you've bought a kid's shoe and then you want to come and buy the next size up, you'll take them at a discount. No, I don't want you to answer that while we're necessarily now, but I guess somebody's got to buy their first shoe at some point back in the distance, because all the shoes are going to wear out eventually. But
that's not something we do. We did have a boot hire facility for kids' walking boots when we had our Milton Keynes shop, but then COVID hit, so it wasn't something that we transferred to any of our other shops. Of
course, Sorry, still, part of my head's still thinking of.
Or of course, if you're at a climbing wall, just hire them.
Indeed, I know that. So, and then what? What was, I can't remember what the question was. What is the average price of them? Can I just? Is that? Is it like with everything? They go from for an adult, is it from 40 quid to whatever you want to spend, pretty much? Is it like that sort of daft scale?
No, you're going to be looking around about the 80 to 120 quid mark for the decent shoes, and one of the key things I asked some of our staff before I sat down to record this, and what's the top piece of advice that you give to customers when they're coming in. And one of the things that came back was don't be guided on price. The most expensive shoe might not be the right one for you. Conversely, the cheapest shoe might not be the right one for you either, because of the type of climbing that you're doing, because of the rock that you're climbing on, because of where you are and the grade that you're climbing. So just take time, come in with lots of time, try lots of shoes on, and then you can get the right one for you. It's
a good point, isn't it? It is expensive isn't always best, and cheap isn't always best, or cheap isn't always nasty. It's just what's appropriate for where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing, who you're going to be doing it with, and so on, I guess.
And there's a lot going on behind the scenes as well. Sustainability, the quality of the makeup, the fact that once you buy them, they are going to last as long as you've got really good footwork.
I love that. Get your footwork sorted, fancy footwork. It's like strictly climbing. That'd be. I'd watch that. I'd watch a climbing show. Where idiots like me go and do speed climbing and stuff. Anyway, and is there any final words of wisdom that we've not already dispensed, I guess, before we sign off this one?
No, I think there is this that could go on for hours, but fundamentally, get your footwear right, get your footwork right, and enjoy your climbing, because it is just such a great sport. There is a wealth of information in our buyer's guide to rock boots on our shop website, which is www.climbers-shop.com, and there's also a ton of peripheral information on how to look after rock boots, what you might want to think about when you're buying them, care guides, and also resoling links as well, because that's really important. You can make them last longer by getting them resoled, and there's Clonbarris Resoles and Lancashire Sports Repairs in the UK that do that. And all of that information is on our Joe Brown Outdoor Academy website, which is www.joebrownoutdooracademy.com.
Awesome. So that's been Outdoor Gear Chat. That was episode 9. Rock shoes, trust the rubber. We'll be back soon.